at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
That would make me terrible, Troy.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
The return of Treacherous Trista. It's good to have you
Welcome
back.
back.
Yes.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Excellent. And we're joined by screenwriter Jason X and My Bloody Valentine and Drive Angry, Trick, and all kinds of cool stuff. Todd Farmer. It's very cool to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. And what a great opening, by the way. I love and have had sex with most of the people in that.
Oh, really? Excellent. I just paused it when we got to Greasy Strangler Month, so that's very exciting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so
there's
wait,
even more to that. But
so this is called Without Your Head?
without your head, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, do I have to go? Do I have to leave?
Oh,
I have my.
No, I think it's very fitting.
yep.
All right, fine. Look, I'm gonna put this on this guy because
Ah!
it looks better that way.
Yeah. I need one of those myself.
All right. So how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
All is
thanks.
well.
So only one of you is in threat of fire?
Imminently.
Yeah.
Troy's smoking though, so I guess you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Anything could happen.
That's true.
Yeah, it's weird times. So is the sky red where you guys are? I only see pictures. I don't know.
It's not red here, but it's kind of overcast here, but I'm down by the ocean.
I'm overcast, but it's very smoky. But yeah, a lot of people have like a blood orange sky or like a bright orange sky.
Right.
Yeah, it's strange. It's weird times.
Weird world that we live in.
It is.
I'll pour myself some coffee.
Oh, I was gonna make coffee, but I didn't quite have time. And I
You're
was
the
gonna
only
do it in
one
the French press. Now
non-coffee.
I'm very
It feels like coffee time.
mhm. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna make some. No. So what I want to know is we'll talk about all kinds of stuff, but
Absolutely.
your first movie, your first script that becomes a movie is Jason X.
I know.
That's
What's
gotta
that all
be
about?
pretty big. Like, the first movie that you're getting made is Jason Voorhees movie, Friday the 13th.
Jason Voorhees movie where he was here and I put him up there.
Mhm.
What's that all about? Yeah, I did that. Sorry.
Yeah. How'd that all come about? How does you don't have a feature film before that, and they're like, hey,
No.
we're
Well,
gonna
I
make this movie.
started working for Cunningham and I had been there about 3 years. And the whole time that I was there, Freddy versus Jason was in development and it had probably went through 4 or 5 writers since I had been there. And he was frustrated and he was like, let's just do a Jason movie. So we all got together. Jim Isaac drove down and we jumped in a room and started talking about ideas. And we talked about so many horrible ideas. and so we ended up with the worst.
Very good, very good. That's always my plan. Yeah, that's my motto.
Yeah.
But what were some of the bad ones that didn't get made?
I mean, we talked about Jason in the Hood. We talked about somebody grabbing Jason, putting him in a plane and dropping him in the middle of the Middle East, like the military.
All right, he's like Rambo, yeah.
Yeah. There was one suggestion that we talked about him escaping from hell because Jason Goes to Hell came first. And we talked about he escapes from hell with the help of Gilbert Godfrey. And a couple of comedic.
I thought you said
And
terrible
why wasn't
ideas.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, come
I
on.
know, right? I mean,
Jason, follow me. Let's get out of here. You're the best.
so we couldn't have made that then, but now we could make that.
Yeah. Still time to do this. I love.
I would like to think so.
You talk about escaping hell. Was that like a guideline? All like we have to think of a way to continue the last one, or did you just come up like we'll just?
I liked the idea of that because I like the idea that each movie sort of ties into the next movie, but they're all completely unique and different. But the worry was we didn't know what Freddy versus Jason was going to do. So how do we? How do you not step on their toes? How do you not screw up what they're going to do? I mean, they may do something and we start. So anyway, it was my idea to let's move into the future so that whatever
That's
they
interesting.
do, they do.
Yeah, because then it doesn't interfere. It's its own separate time. It's
So that was the plan.
unless Jason versus Freddy is even further into the future, I guess.
Which that would be their fault for not letting us know.
Right. So who first like pitches the idea? Let's, you said you put in the future, but like, when did you think like, let's actually put them in space?
Well, I pitched more of a Blade Runner type of thing. So it was, it's in the future. It's 300-400 years in the future, and somebody finds this guy frozen, cryogenically frozen, and he gets loose. And everyone involved was like, that's too expensive. We can't do that. Because I kept talking about Blade Runner. And I said, okay, well, let's do Alien, because Alien is it's just a dark ship. We could do that. And so that's actually where it came from. There wasn't a lot of genius behind it.
But it worked. And I remember it was either Ebert or Siskel, because they were notorious for not liking Friday the 13th. Yeah, they did like the set. One of them liked the setup to
really? I don't remember
to
that.
Jason X.
Wow.
They said it was actually an interesting setup that he was like frozen. I don't think they still like the movie, but
no, they hated the movie. But I didn't know that. I feel like that is
partially vindicated.
Yeah, take any compliment on that.
Yeah. But I mean, I grew up watching Siskel and Ebert, but it is funny to go back and watch them, because they get really upset like over movies like the slashers. I remember watching, I think it was part 4, and they talked about like, this is like how this is gonna like ruin like people's childhood, and like a whole generation of people will think this is like what life is about. And I'm like, no one's watching Friday the 13th 4 thinking like this is what my life's gonna be. I hope not, anyway.
Wow.
You probably have other issues if that's what you're.
If that's your big issue, you've got problems.
Yeah. So I assume you were a Friday the 13th fan before getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, I was well, yeah, but hate me or love me, I definitely loved Halloween. I loved Halloween the movie better, because I think it was the first horror movie I actually saw. I mean, if you don't count Jaws, Halloween was the first movie I saw. And so that impacted me quite a bit, because that changed, how I thought about movies, how I thought about everything. And then what I liked about Friday the 13th is that each movie was completely unique. Like, I love that the first movie, the killer is completely different from the second movie. And the third movie, it's in 3D. And you just keep going, and they're all completely unique. And it's not just the same story over and over. It's so that, Jason ends up fighting Carrie. I mean, come on. My going to space wasn't that crazy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he turns into a little kid in part 8, and then he goes to hell in 9.
Yeah. So
they never explain how he becomes an adult again from 18.
No, absolutely not. But nuclear waste.
That's my one problem with the whole franchise.
Is the little boy being drowning in liquid waste?
Right.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. So what is it just about horror itself that like interested you?
It's I mean, quite honestly, in the beginning, that's just how you started. That was the stepping stone. I don't think I appreciated what horror was until years later. It was when we started out, there were only a couple of places that were making scary movies. It was Dimension and New Line, and that was pretty much it. There were a couple of people on the outside, but everybody else thought horror was stupid. Like, you couldn't go pitch a horror movie to Universal, even though they had all the old Universal monsters. So it was a weird time. And then Scream came out, everything changed suddenly, because Scream opened at like 6 point something million. And then the next week it made 11 million. And the next week it made more. And suddenly everybody was paying attention to horror. And that had never happened before. So suddenly Universal had their own genre department. And so did everyone had it. So suddenly everybody's making horror movies. And so it was just sort of the thing to do. But down the line, I realized that horror, it's got everything. Horror's got comedy. Horror's got romance. Horror's got, I mean, you go see a romantic comedy, you're not going to have any horror in it. Right. You go see, so it's like every genre was inside horror. And so that's what made it so lovely, because you could write everything inside one film. And so I liked that. And I still like that today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I was saying, you mentioned Universal. That's even true. Like recently, when they were doing the Dark Universe, like the idea was they were going to make action movies instead of horror movies, and it didn't work out.
No, it did not work out for them. Although, I guess now they've joined with Blumhouse, which obviously Blumhouse knows how to do horror, and so things are working a little better, because Invisible Man was fantastic.
Yeah, it was definitely a step up from the last couple of the Mummy with
the Mummy was not the best work that they ever.
No,
or that Dracula one either.
No, Dracula, but Dracula wasn't as lovely either. Bless his heart.
Yeah. How did it come about that Cronenberg plays the doctor in Jason X?
Well, because Jim Isaac had done all of Cronenberg. Well, he didn't all of them, but he'd done a lot of the effects for Cronenberg, and so he reached out to him to say, "Can I use your effects team?" And Cronenberg said, "Yeah, but I want to be in the movie." So it wasn't our idea; it was his idea. He wanted to be in the movie, and so
that's pretty wild.
What do you say to that? No, you can't.
Yeah, you're not right for the role. Yeah.
And he, and of course, he rewrote all of his lines, and I'm like,
oh, really?
Everybody was like, Cronenberg rewriting all his lines, and I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I don't want him frozen. I want him soft. That's not me. I'm not that smart.
I love it though. That's pretty. You wouldn't expect like Cronenberg is the kind of guy that'd be like, I want to be in the Jason movie. No, I think that's pretty awesome though.
No, but he really, he did actually love the genre. If you go back and look at his movies, The Fly and everything else, the man was always pushing the envelope as far as horror was concerned. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, besides the Cronenberg lines, how different was Jason X that got made from what you wrote, or how much similar was it? It
was the original. Two things. The original was bigger. We had there was a sequence where when the students show up to and they find Jason, they sort of set off these countermeasures. So these robotic spiders basically came out of the wall. They were sort of the nanotechnology kind of stuff, and so they have guns and shit coming out of the top of them. And so DeLuca, who had done Lost in Space, and Lost in Space has this sequence where there's a bunch of robotic spiders, and he was like, you know what, that was a nightmare. Get rid of that. So we're like, okay. And then we had a 0G scene, which was, Jason floating around in the cargo bay with all the kids, and which is a good scene, but they were like, it's too expensive to shoot. So that changed the expense. And then the other change was it was a darker movie. It was a lot more like Alien or Aliens. It wasn't as jokey. It wasn't because when Scream came along, it changed everything, because the humor in Scream, everyone was like, well, we got to be more like Scream. And I was like, no, actually we don't. That's great that Scream is out there, but we could be our own thing. But so, I argued for a while, and then I just accepted it and wrote "He's screwed" as a dude twirls down a screw.
And what I think is interesting too is like, even though it's in outer space and you're taking Jason like out of the camp, the movie is still set up similarly to a Friday the 13th movie, where it's almost all young adults, kind of partying, having premarital sex, and then he's still going around killing them.
That was always a concept from the beginning. It was to do our homage to all the other movies, but set it in space.
Yeah. Had you acted before?
Just in high school, college, just theater, that kind of stuff. They said, do you want to play a part? And I was like, yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
So I chose Dallas because he was the biggest grunt. He had the biggest part. Sorry,
I thought you were going to fight with Cronenberg. You're like, no, I'm playing the doctor, buddy.
That would have been. I wish I'd thought of that.
Right. It worked out. No.
Yeah, it was fun.
Trista, do you have a question about anything?
I sure do. Yeah, thank you. So you kind of glossed over working with Cunningham, but I'm wondering how you got that opportunity and what faculties you were working with him and for him.
I went to college with a guy who dated a girl who was in theater with Dean Lorey in high school. Dean Lorey put Jason in space. So Dean had just written Major Pain with Damon Wayans. And Dean had moved out to Hollywood, and he was quite successful. And so my buddy said, why don't you, this guy's doing it, why don't you do it? And so I reached out to Dean, and I sent him a script, and he read it and he hated it. And so then, but he said, you've got a lot of good ideas. So I can he said, you don't really know structure, but I can help you with that. But you've got some great ideas. And so he was the one who suggested move out to LA, and I moved out to LA. And within a month or so, he introduced me to Sean, and Sean was like, well, come work for me. And so I think I was making $2,000 a month. And I would drive to Sean's house every day for 3 years and write whatever Sean wanted written. And that's how I got my start. And so it was.
What's your relationship with Sean like? Because he's kind of a polarizing guy.
Sean's the kind of guy where Sean he's very much a father figure. Like, he will take you into his home, because that's where it was his home. So if you were thirsty, you went into the kitchen to get something to drink. He would feed you all the time. He'd make steaks, he'd make burgers. He was that kind of guy. But at the same time, he would pull you aside to teach you how the business works. And he was like, this is how you fuck a guy in business. And so then he would tell you things, and then he would do that to you the following week. So that's what was so awesome about it. Like, he would say, you never pay a guy before 5 o'clock on Friday, because then the money stays in your account all weekend. And then he would do that. He would not give you the check until after 5 o'clock. And I was like, dude. So it was a weird relationship, but I learned a tremendous amount about how to screw people over.
All right. Well, I'll remind myself never to work with you.
Exactly. But he very much was, and still is, I'm sure, to this day, because we didn't really talk after Jason X. We'd been together for 3 years, and I think we'd gone as far as we could go together. And so, but I mean, I have a career because right. He, gave me a career. And so it was, he took a risk, and I guess it paid off, because we have Jason X. We birthed a baby together.
All right. In your opinion, what do you think his opinion of Jason the character is? Because some people say, like, he hates Jason.
I mean, he loved horror. He started in horror, but he always wanted to go on and do different things. He liked how Wes was able to go off and work with Meryl Streep. I mean, because he and Wes were buddies in the beginning. And I think he always wanted to do that. So when I was there for the first 3 years, it was very, we worked on courtroom dramas. We worked on, delinquent kids in Spanish Harlem. It was anything but horror. And so, but when it came time to work on it, I mean, he was very involved. It wasn't that he didn't, I mean, I never got the sense that he didn't like horror. I know he wanted to do other things, and I understand that, having done horror for a long time, the couple of opportunities where I've written something else, it's been nice to just as a writer, just to express yourself differently. But I don't know that he ever hated it. But he certainly was there every single day. He had lots of comments. He was always inside the script, making changes here and there. I mean, he was very much a part of the process. So.
Did you have much interaction with Kane Hodder?
Yeah, I mean, he threw me around a little bit. He's good at that.
I read his book. Did he pee in your stuff or anything? Because that's a big part of Kane.
Well, I mean, there are things here that still smell a little funny, and I've wondered why. Uh-huh. But, I mean, the most interesting thing about Kane is that he's a stuntman first. Right. And, he had this horrible accident where he was burned all over a majority of his body. And when it came to being, I had a scene where he, pushes my head into the wall. And it's a violent scene. You push it in, and he wouldn't let me do that first shot. And the shot is, you're far away, and you see him walking up, and he slams the head into the wall. So he wouldn't let me do it because he's afraid there's a hole. They cut a hole in the wall, and it's covered with this rubber plastic. And he was like, no, we're going to bring a guy in to do that. And I was like, but I can do that. And so I don't know if you remember in X-Men, in the beginning of X-Men, Wolverine is fighting this big bald dude in the cage. And that's the dude that they brought in because he's a stuntman. And so they brought that guy in, they dress him like me, and Kane, and what's interesting is Kane puts his hand on the back of your head, but you're doing the action. Like, he's not shoving you, he's not doing any of that, because he's like, you do it all. And so I'm standing in the back, and they do the scene, and I hear this crack. It's because the guy missed the hole, and he hit this 2x4 and just crushed his nose, just exploded. And then Kane was like, see, I told you. And so I was like, all right, fine. So then I do the close-up shot, and it's funny because Kane's like, look, my hand's going to be right there, but you're doing it. So the harder you hit that hole, the better it's going to look, but don't miss. Okay. And so I didn't. I hit the hole, as I should have, as was my top. But I mean, he was always, that's the thing that was kind of fascinating, because he was always very professional. And so you know, he's the guy who peels his lip down, he's got kill tattooed on the inside, he's all, you know, he's grunting and growling before every scene. But when it came to your safety, he was like not the killer at all. He was very professional. It was a weird dynamic. It was something a lot of people weren't used to.
Mm-hmm. I know another
coordinator on that. Sorry, Neal.
No.
He wasn't the stunt coordinator, but that didn't matter, because he was always a stunt coordinator in his head. So he was going to do his thing.
Interesting. I was just gonna say, I know, like, in some of his movies, he doesn't like the cast to see him like in character until he's on set, or out of character until he's in character on set. Was he like that on Jason X?
Not to my memory, no. I mean, he was around the whole time. He would do the grunting thing and the growling and the screaming thing right before he would shoot. And I remember a lot of people would think what this next part is kind of a princess or a prima donna. Not at all. He had this thing where there was a scene where when he fights the robot, the KM character, he gets knocked down. He gets shot and knocked down. And there was a scene where he gets back up. And Kane was like, no. He's like, you don't see Jason get back up. And we were like, what? Because it never even occurred to us. And he's like, it's an awkward move. It's not threatening. It's human. You never see him get up. And I was like, because it made perfect sense to me. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I'd never thought of that. But he wouldn't let us shoot the scene where he gets up. Just cut back to him and here he is walking again.
Yeah. And
that's the way we did it. And he was right.
So that's interesting, because something that stuck with me once at a convention I was at with Kane, and Kane said that he was let down when they picked someone else to play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. But it wasn't just the money stuff. He said one of the things he said was somebody who didn't love the character like he did. And I was like, you could tell he really meant it, and that the Jason character to him is more than just the money of playing the role. It was something that he cares a lot about. And I think what you said there really shows that it's something he thinks about the character.
No, he absolutely cares about the character. And he was, I remember we had I don't remember how many years exactly, but if you go to Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, there's a tremendous number of years there. And in the middle of all that, Freddy versus Jason goes into development, but Kane was the only one keeping the franchise alive. He was going to circuits, he was going to conventions, and he was the one out there talking about Jason, talking about the next movie, and very excited about it. I feel like, plus, Freddy and Jason, I mean, you had those two iconic actors. Granted, he wasn't Jason through the whole stretch, like, say, Robert was with Freddy, but, he had been Jason more than anyone else. And it just seemed like the right matchup to see those two together. So it was an odd choice, I thought, for them to go that route.
I noticed watching Jason X again, in the opening credits, it says, and Kane Hodder as Jason. I don't know if it really says that in a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, who plays Jason. Yeah. Not in the end credits, but I don't think it really does so much in the opening credits.
I don't know if it does. Actually, I've never looked. I mean, but that would make sense. I mean, he was very much... there's no doubt in my mind he was Jason. Look, I'm best friends with Derek Mears, and Derek Mears is an incredible Jason. But Kane, there would be no Derek Mears without Kane. Kane is the one who kept the franchise alive, and I think he gets the credit for that. I believe he does.
He does, yeah.
Which is a good thing. He should.
Yeah, probably a lot of it. Some of it is like you said, the conventions, and so it was the time was right there. He's playing Jason when the conventions, start to be a thing.
Yeah.
Because, back in the day, there weren't really, it was hard to, to find out who played a lot of the characters, pre-internet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember before, because Jason X sat on the shelf forever. And I remember we did a Fango convention and Kane was there, and Kane was going to go up on stage. And unless I'm mistaken, he said, won't you come up with me? Which normally in narcissistic Hollywood, you would never share the spotlight with anyone, but he was. And so we went up together and I just sat next to him and I answered a couple of questions, but I'm the writer. Nobody gives a crap about me. everybody wanted to hear from him. He brought me up there with him. So Kane was a special guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Talking about him like he's dead. He's apparently still out there killing.
Yeah. We just had him on actually recently, so, a couple weeks ago, and Derek Mears too, who you popped up in their movie Compound Fracture.
Compound Fracture, yeah. And my head.
In your head, exactly.
My head's been in more movies than most actors have been in. I think it's been three movies now.
That's the real star of the.
I would like to think so. Yeah.
Trista, do you have another question?
Oh, well, I did kind of have. I wanted to agree that Kane, especially since he's been through so much, given up so much, and he gives so much to his fans that he really. I mean,
yeah, he does.
And lately he's getting into more straight acting. And sorry, my cat is intruding. But, he's getting into more straight acting. And when we had him on the show recently, he kept sort of downplaying his right to be an actor. He kept saying, like, I'm a stuntman, I'm not a trained actor. And first of all, the fact that he has young people. Second of all, what he's done to himself, like the contribution that he's given to films. I don't know anyone more qualified to be proud or more deserving to be where he is than Kane Hodder. But yeah, I did notice that you were in Compound Fracture and that you had a special thanks credit. And I was wondering about your relationship with those guys and your experience on the film, since we just watched it and just talked to them.
I had Lucier and I were hired to do Halloween 3, which was to follow Rob Zombie's Halloween, his Halloween 2. And so we had it was very fast. I don't think I had written the script when this happened, but I ran into Tyler Maine's wife, Renee, at a convention, and we got to talking. And then later when I went back to LA, I was living about 6 hours north of LA. And I was on my way home, and I was going to actually drive by the town where they lived. And so I reached out to them, and they were like, "Oh, we'll stop by." And so I did, and we immediately started drinking. And by 4 or 5 hours later, it was clear I was never leaving the house. And so Tyler started saying, Derek just lives like 3 blocks down. And so we gathered up toilet paper, gathered up the kids. We went and we toilet papered Derek's house. And then because Tyler is Tyler, we could have just left it as that. Derek comes home, and he's like, "What the?" And his house is but no. Tyler then takes a picture of 2 rolls of toilet paper and a bottle of vodka and texts it to Derek. So when he gets home, he knows we did it. So then Derek shows up at the house, and I'm surprised we all survived the night, because there was a lot of alcohol consumption that evening. And the 3 of us have been, bestest buddies ever since. I mean, we don't see each other that much anymore. Granted, we're on lockdown, but Tyler moved to Atlanta, and so we don't see each other that much. But look, we text and goof with each other all the time. So we're friends, and that's how we became friends.
What happened to that Halloween 3?
I think at the end of the day, they just didn't have the money. The Weinsteins were not doing well. They had, and I can't remember which movie. It was one of the Tarantino movies that come out, and that movie had helped them. And I don't remember what it was. We have to look back, but they just didn't have a lot of money. And I know that we had Drive Angry scheduled to start shooting in January. And so this was the previous year, and it was the end of that year. So we would have to be in production and be out of production by December 25th, by Christmas. And so if you go back and do all the math, we had like 10 days to write the script. And that's it. Because if we weren't in pre-production on that 10th day, we would never make it. So it was a crazy schedule. And we did it. We had a very detailed outline. Patrick was out there. Gary Tunnicliffe was on board. Gary had found the original Kirk mask, and he was making molds. I mean, all of this stuff was happening. Casting was being hired. Everybody was being hired. I'm writing 24/7. I mean, I'm writing, I'm eating, I'm shitting, and I'm sleeping, and that's it. and it's every single day for 8 days. And I finished early and I sent it to Patrick, and Patrick read it. He did a quick pass on it. We sent it to the Weinsteins, and we sent it to the Weinsteins on a Saturday. The following Monday, they said we can't do it. Now, what's funny is, had we turned it in when we were supposed to turn it in, we wouldn't have gotten paid. I don't remember how this works exactly, because they were going to pull the plug officially, but because we'd already turned it in, they couldn't. So they had to pay us for the work done. And but you know, the Weinsteins turned out to be not very trustworthy in many ways.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Did you have much interaction with them personally?
I didn't. I mean, Patrick had worked with them a lot because he had you know, from the day he edited Scream, he worked with them a lot, but he didn't know. He'd heard rumors. I'd heard rumors. I remember a story that Harvey told about this actress and he was like bragging about it, how he got this actress to perform a sex act on him. And I remember thinking, I know what the actress looks like, and I know what you look like. I thought he was lying. I just thought, I thought he's that nerdy guy who says I've had sex with all these girls, and he hadn't. It never occurred to me because my brain doesn't go. I just didn't think about the fact that he's using his power to do all this stuff. And then later, that actress came out and said, "Yeah, he did horrible things to me." So it was weird. And then, I mean, we made, like, even after Drive Angry came out and didn't do very well, we still went back and worked with the Weinsteins because they were kind of loyal in a weird way. But I mean, we'd never work with them again, even if.
Yeah. By the way, Drive Angry, I watched that for the first time not that long ago. I was sick, and it came on. I think I was watching what's the movie with The Rock? It's called Drive, maybe, or Fast or something. I don't know. But for some reason, they were showing them back to back, and so I started watching it. And I had no idea what the movie was about going in.
That's great. That's the best way.
It is exactly the best. I would recommend to watch. I have put on Facebook stuff like, you got to watch Drive Angry, but don't even read anything about it.
Or anything.
No, because if you don't know what's going on, it's amazing. Well, it's amazing anyway. But if you don't know what's going on, like, it's just insane.
I mean, I often hate to talk about it because most people have not seen it, and I don't want to give anything away. But I do have the God Killer right.
I highly recommend it. It's honestly, it's my favorite movie that you've written. I think it's amazing.
I loved it. I absolutely. It was the most fun of anything that we've written. Now remember, we wrote this for Tom Atkins and Betsy Rue. Betsy Rue and Tom Atkins were both.
Way.
Yeah, we wrote it with them in mind. What we wanted to do, because we just come out of My Bloody Valentine, and My Bloody Valentine was a huge success, and so we fully expected that Lionsgate would come back to us and say, we want to do a sequel because that's where they make all their money. And so we had this idea, yeah, we'll do your sequel. We had that all planned out. That's a complete separate story. But we were like, we'll do your sequel, but we also want to do this down and dirty little road movie. And we'll bring Tom Atkins in to play the lead, and we'll bring Betsy Rue in, who everybody loved from Valentine. And they'll be the Nick and Amber parts. And we pitched it at Lionsgate, and they were like, this is a great idea. And then the movie came out, and we heard nothing. We heard crickets. And there's a dozen reasons as to why that happened, but yeah, Drive Angry. And we hadn't written Drive Angry at that point. We sort of had it planned. And then when we couldn't, when Bloody Valentine 2 didn't move forward, we were like, screw it. We'll just write Drive Angry. And we did. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, it's great, especially I'm watching it thinking like, this is like so insane, and then there's a big twist, and then like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. But that, I don't want to give the movie away because it really is fun to watch. But how did Nicolas Cage get involved? Because he's like he's Nicolas Cage, and he's pretty awesome in the movie. And it's kind of before he started doing roles where it's like really these. I mean, he's always kind of crazy, but it's before he started to do Mandy and a lot of like these really roles.
It's more crazy ones.
Yeah, he was more mainstream stuff before this.
Yeah, he had definitely done some crazy stuff, but this was around the time when he had his IRS issues, and so he was doing a lot of work.
I see. Okay.
And he was doing movie after movie after movie, and so, but what had happened is we had written the script, and even early on when we wrote it, it was about a guy who I don't know if we're going to talk spoilers or not. I think it doesn't matter at this point.
No, I mean, it came out quite a while ago, but yeah. Yeah.
So we wrote a movie about a guy who broke out of prison to rescue his granddaughter from a bunch of cultists. So we went back and forth as to whether it should be a daughter or a granddaughter. Does that make the lead actor look too old or sound too old? Because actors, when they read a script, they're looking at it going, how's this going to make me look? Do I want to look like a granddad? So, but that was the story. And then later I came to Patrick and I said, what if he's not breaking out of prison? What if he's breaking out of hell? And Patrick's like, nah, we can't do that, because then we'd have to show him breaking out of hell. And we argued back and forth for a long time on that. And then finally I said, no, we don't have to show it. High Plains Drifter. He just materializes on the horizon. And Patrick was like, yeah. And so nowhere in the movie do we say he broke out of hell. I mean, at no point. But if you watch the trailer, that's the first line in the trailer. If you look at the poster, it says that right up on top. So it's the weirdest thing. And then so because of the trailer, they came back to us after the trailer was done. They came back to us and said, you know what? We need to see him breaking out of hell in the beginning. So the last thing we ever did was, after the movie was wrapped, we created that opening that didn't exist when we wrote it, of them driving out of a CG hell, which looks stupid because if we were going to do that, we would have done it so that it looked great. But when you've got like 2 weeks to do it, that's what we ended up with. So I don't even remember what your question was in the beginning. I got off on a tangent.
Well, just how Nicolas Cage got involved. But since you said that, I remember when I was watching it, because I'll be honest, I wasn't paying that much attention when it started, because it came on after something else to watch. So I thought almost that opening, and it's not a knock the movie because I really love it, but I almost thought that opening wasn't to be taken literally. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like, oh yeah, this guy's from hell, whatever. But like, no, he's not literally from hell. And so I didn't even think about it so much when watching the movie. And then all this madness is going on, and I'm like, this is so over the top. Like, how is this possible? And then I find out he's this demon, and I was like, oh, this movie.
It was certainly not the intention. I mean, there's a point in.
But I think it just was to say, I think it works better if you didn't have that opening.
Yeah,
if you didn't find out till later in the movie.
But I've done that a lot. I mean, I did the same thing with Jason X. No one was supposed to know about Uber Jason. That was supposed to be the end of the movie. It takes place at the end of the movie. You're like 60, 70 minutes into the movie when he's killed. And so you're supposed to think, this is it. He's not coming back. It's over. The movie's over. Get your popcorn. Let's go. And then he comes back as this other thing. That was supposed to be the surprise. And it's on the poster and it's in the trailer. So, I mean, I give up on giving them twists, because the marketing department's going to just put it everywhere. But the way Nick got involved is, we had, after we finished the script, we went out and a lot of people were interested. And so we had a bunch of producers who wanted to come on and produce it. And so we're meeting with producer after producer, and we had a couple of producers who we really liked. And in the 11th hour, one of the agents called and said, you need to meet with Mike DeLuca, because he's read the script and he really wants to meet you guys. And I liked DeLuca because DeLuca had greenlit Jason X. And I thought, well, this is a nice little, circle of life Simba. So we go back to the beginning with DeLuca. So we go and meet him. And it was, I've never had a meeting like that. I mean, he's quoting lines. He was quoting the pink dildo line. And every producer we had met with they had like, this is what I would do. This is how I would fix your script. And so we were sort of conditioned to think that, okay, so we said to Mike, well, so what would you do to the script? And he was like, I'd shoot it. so we were like, we left that meeting going, he's the guy. And we pissed off a very powerful producer who wanted to do it. And I think to this day, he still hates us because we didn't go with him. Yeah. And he went on, and he has a fine career, so let's not shed a salty tear for him. But he was pissed at us. But we went, and because DeLuca had done Ghostwriter, he sent it to Nick, and Nick read it. And when Nick got to the point where they're in the church, it wasn't a church at that time. It was actually the exact same scene that took place in the church took place on the interstate. It was a car crash, and they pull up to this car crash. But anyway, at that scene, there's something that happens, and he was like, oh, that was it, I'm in. And so he's been in there. And so once he was in, the whole movie changed, because it went from this down and dirty movie to a much bigger budgeted movie. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't get any of that money, but we thought we were going to get that money. I mean, as far as the budget, we thought the budget was going to have a lot of money, but it actually didn't have as much as we.
The sex scene, fight scene, I think, is one of the greatest scenes in films.
That's all.
An action film.
That's all Patrick. because I was, he called me up and I was working on, because I would normally do a first draft. And he called me up and all he said when I answered the phone, I was like, hello. And he was like, they never stop fucking. I was like, I'll call you back. And but that's all he said. Like, he didn't even tell me what he was talking about. I knew what he was talking about. And I was like, oh, wow. So I just wrote it.
Yeah. And I can't imagine someone else besides Nicolas Cage playing that scene. Like, I think it wouldn't work with almost anybody else.
In the scene, he's naked. Like in the screenplay, he's naked. And I want to say a day or maybe the day that we shot it, he came back and said, no, it wasn't the day, but it was very close. He said, yeah, I'm not going to take my clothes off. And we were like, wait, what? And he was like, you know what? If he knows this fight is coming, he's not going to put himself in a vulnerable position. And we were like, okay, well, you can't really argue with that. It makes sense. And so we had to write that in. So she's like, why don't you take your clothes off? And so welcome to writing for Nicolas Cage.
Well, it worked for me. I dig it.
It did work. I worked for it too.
Yeah. You mentioned My Bloody Valentine. And what's funny about that is we were interviewing George Mihalka on Valentine's Day. And I asked him, because it had just come out on the news sites that they were remaking it. And so I asked him what he thought of it. And he had no idea. We broke the news to him that they were remaking his movie on the show, which is it's up on the website. But
he didn't know.
That's what he says. Yeah, he didn't know that there was. He was very shocked that they were remaking My Bloody Valentine.
Well, he made a.
According to him, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's possible. He made a good. He got a good payday on that one. Bless his heart.
Mm-hmm. There's some controversy because I like George Mihalka a lot. We've had him on the show a couple times. Also, Ray Sager, who we've had on the show, he takes credit for actually directing the original My Bloody Valentine.
Really?
So I know that's what he said on the show, and I mean, both of them are very nice to me, so I don't know, but I don't know if you know anything about this.
I don't know anything about that. I know that there was a significant line in the budget for them where they got a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know why that is, because normally you sell the rights completely when you direct a movie, but they retained something because they got a very good payday. They made more money off of this. I would say they made more money off the sequel than the original, but I don't know that for certain.
How did that come about? I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was saying it's enough that I was envious. So what were you saying?
Oh, I was saying, how did it come about that we're going to remake My Bloody Valentine?
So Patrick and I had met on a movie called The Messengers. It wasn't called The Messengers at the time, and it was a much different movie. He was brought in to direct it, and then I got replaced by Stuart Beatty, who did Collateral. Stuart was very hot at the time. He's doing everything. And so they brought him in and he did some rewrites. And Patrick was there at the time. And then Patrick, then the studio decided not to make the movie. Now, even though Scream had come out and it had changed the industry, there were still places like Revolution Studios at the time. They just didn't want to do horror. And even even Lionsgate at a point, they even though they'd started with horror, they didn't really want to do it anymore. And so what ended up happening is they sold it to Ghost House. It went through a whole bunch of changes. And Patrick and I remained friends over the course of that period. And then Patrick had been brought in to clean up. And because he had done all of this editing over the course of his career, he was oftentimes brought in the 11th hour to clean up a movie or to do some reshoots, but it was always off the record. Like he was coming in privately. And so I know he was working on this one movie and I had reached out to him saying, hey, how's it going? And I think we were on the phone and he was just a mess. Like he was like, it is not going well. I have a scene I have to shoot tomorrow. It doesn't work. I don't know what we're going to do. And I said, well, do you want me to take a look at it? He said, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, take a look at it. So I took a look at the scene, and I actually sat there and I just rewrote the scene. And I rewrote it so that it could still be shot in the place that it was. Like I didn't add actors. I didn't change the location. I rewrote it like it's going to shoot the next day. I sent it back to him and he was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And he shot it. And he ended up sending me 2 or 3 other scenes and did the exact same thing. I wasn't being paid. I wasn't official. I got no special thanks. It was just, but everyone involved knew I'd done it. And so when it came time for him to do My Bloody Valentine, he was at Lionsgate and he said, why don't we send it to Todd? And they had done this same movie and they remembered that I'd done this work on it. And they were like, absolutely. And so that's how I got involved with it. And but it was a weird time because the writers were about to go on strike. And this was 2008, I believe. And then the writers did, in fact, go on strike. And so when it came time to pay me, they made an offer that was just silly. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And my agents and lawyers, they were all like, dude, there's a million writers out of work right now. They're going to go to somebody else if you don't do it. I was like, all right, fine. So even though My Bloody Valentine made a ton of money, I didn't. But hey, that's life. That's how it goes sometimes.
Now, along those lines, do you think the writers get enough credit in general?
I mean, not always, no. I mean, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, writers come in and they don't do a very good job, and you have the crew has to fix the movie, being the director and everybody involved. And like I've had Gary Tunicliffe come in, who did the blood work on Valentine. A lot of those kills he came up with, so I get to take credit for that. So Gary made me look better than I actually am. But then, there are times like with Drive Angry, we didn't get, nobody saw the movie for starters, so we didn't get a lot of credit for that. But I mean, it's touch and go. It's hard to. I think writers should get there is no movie until the writers, take a blank page and start writing something down. So I think they should get a little more credit, but I'm biased too.
By the way, I really like Gary's recent Hellraiser movie. Gary Tunicliffe, yeah. I think it's one of the better sequels of
it is a great little movie. I mean, it is a legitimate good movie, and there's no money. You can tell there's no money there, but despite that, it's a really good little movie. I loved it.
I think it's the first one in a long time that's original. There's they're trying to do something new with it. There's some new characters and takes on things. Yeah,
and he's fantastic. Like, he is legitimately a good actor. And his character in the movie is weird as hell. And he plays a small part in Trick, and just I don't even think he has any dialogue. And it's just his facial reaction and the way he acts, it's just brilliant. Like, some people can do that and some people can't, and he is just a natural.
He's I forget the name of the character. Not the accountant.
Say the accountant, like, right? I was going to go the same place. It's something like that. Yeah, it's the auditor or something.
That's it. I think that's what it is. The auditor. Yeah. And then John, or maybe that's because John Gulager is. I like John Gulager too, but he's really weird in the movie. He's got a small role in it too, even a little smaller. But yeah,
he's always really weird, regardless. I think.
Wait, is he the one who eats the paper?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Him and his dad are so different. John Gulager and Clu Gulager.
Oh yeah, that's
I love them both though. But they're much different people.
Very different. Thing about Gary is, I mean, there's quite literally nothing Gary can't do. He every movie that we've ever been on, he always comes in as the effects guy, but he does so much more than that. He can do regular makeup. He can do anything. On set, I know for Trick, there was a moment when there was something supposed to be painted on a wall and Patrick didn't really like it. And Gary went up and just fixed it, on the day. It was just really quick. He's just really smart. Plus, he's the only guy I know who could probably kill any one of us. He is the only person I've ever met. And I'm a big guy. I won't mess with him. I'll mess with Tyler. I'll mess with Derek. I'll get my butt kicked, but I'll mess with him. But Gary, no. Gary has hurt me in ways that I don't even want to talk about.
Really, I would not expect that.
Gary,
Oh, no.
he is a master, and he can come up and touch your thumb in a way that'll put you on your knees. He's just like, I would never mess with Gary. That's just, we anytime we argue, I back down. No, you're okay. All right, you got it. I'm on your side, buddy.
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, you should
learn the secrets. Yeah.
You had him on the show. You should ask him about it. I won't spoil it, but he can tell you some stories that will knock your socks off.
I think he's got the record for our longest interview. It's like 4 hours long. So
is that right?
Gotten into yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty excitable. I liked him.
Yeah, I will admit it's a little cheating because we recorded 3.5 hours one day and then like an hour the next day. But no one needs to know that.
Oh,
no one watches.
Yeah, he has story after story after story. You have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, I was. It was good. Yeah, but I did not know that he's a dangerous man. It's very interesting.
He is indeed.
Trista, did you have a question?
Wondering what you're up to now. Obviously, we're all sort of quarantined. A lot of productions are halted. Are you writing a lot?
I wasn't at first. I mean, currently I'm in my tool shed, but I guess I did 14 or 15 years worth of home improvement in the last 4 months, and so that was the main thing I did. But currently, writing wise, yes, I have written the whole time. Patrick and I have a movie that we just went out to an actor for, and if the actor says yes, then we'll move forward on that. I've got a horror movie that is planned and has been planned to shoot in Glencolmkill, Ireland, which was we would have shot it by now, but then we all got put on lockdown, and so that's there. And then there's a rock and roll biopic that I did that would also shoot in the UK and Ireland. And then I wrote a true story based on true story crime that happened here in California. And what else? Oh, there's something at Blumhouse right now that either they'll say yes or no to. So I mean, but that's just the life of the writer. You always have to have 12 things, chasing 12 things just to get one job, and maybe not even get that job. So it's a weird business.
Have you ever wanted to direct your own movie?
Not really. My brain doesn't work that way. I like the idea of producing, being in the background, making things happen in the background. But I've watched Patrick enough that my brain doesn't work that way. I wish it did. I would like it, but I would make mistakes. I would miss things. I can't. It's just, it's hard to explain other than I just know I don't see it. I don't see how it works. I'm much better on the page than I would be a director. Now that may change, down the road, but I don't think so.
You brought up Trick, which is on Hulu right now for people who have Hulu. And one of the things about it, I want to hear your take. Do you think the new Batman trailer took anything from some of Trick? I see a lot of similarities.
I haven't actually. I don't tend to watch. If I'm going to see a movie, I won't watch the trailer. So you'll have to tell me what I missed, because I didn't watch it.
It would kind of spoil Trick, I think. But there's a scene, a group of people in the Batman trailer that look very similar to a scene in Trick.
Okay, I'll take a look at.
Face painted.
I will watch that trailer.
Group of face painted people. Looks very
similar. I had not seen that. Trick is a movie that it was a weird movie to shoot, because we didn't have it was one of it's the same story. You never have enough money, you never have enough time, but this one was a strange one. But I feel like we did a pretty decent job despite all of the many challenges. Probably more challenges on that one than any of the other films that we did.
I noticed it's really fast-paced slasher movie, where a lot of it's got kind of the throwback feel to a slasher film, but a lot of those are like kind of a slow build till stuff happens. But this happens right away, and it's just like relentless.
Yeah, I mean that was the intention. We wanted the opening to be just kind of batshit crazy, and I think we accomplished that. They shot that opening scene. Patrick shot that in one day. Tiny little basement. Everybody crowded into that thing, and they just shot the crap out of it. But I mean, we clearly let you know in the first 30 seconds what kind of movie you're watching. So there's no, either you're going to watch it or you're not going to watch it. You'll know at that point. But yeah, I love that all my props are out here in the.
Oh, nice.
That's my trick knife.
That's pretty sweet.
Which again, Tunicliff made this, so it's got. I shave with it most of the time.
Let's get a practical use then.
Yeah, it's a good back scratcher too.
What else do you have in there in the shed? I know you have your head, obviously.
I got my head. I got got my skill saw if you need it. I mean, this is just. I always wanted I always wanted the big garage with all the crap that I can build stuff, and so built this, and it's sort of the he-she shed because I do all the building over here, and she does all the painting over here. So she has her spot. She had some lips, but I guess the battery went dead. so this is
she's your wife, or
she's going to be. We were going to get married.
Oh, okay.
We were going to get married.
I thought maybe you have a different wig you put on when you're.
Oh no, I have that too. Don't get me wrong. I have the longer wig. It's more pinkish. Okay. But yeah, my girlfriend, fiance, soon to be future wife is in Croatia right now doing a show.
Oh wow.
So, but yeah, she. We were going to get married in Greece a few months ago, and that didn't happen because we're all in lockdown. So that'll happen later, and you're all invited.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We all appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, you should absolutely go. Small island in Greece. It'll be so much fun. We'll provide a place for you to hang your hat.
Nice, yeah. Someone out there wants to help facilitate that. That'd be sweet. Well, Tom Atkins is in Trick, and you brought him up a couple times. I'm a big fan of Tom Atkins. How did you get involved working with Tom Atkins?
He's a lovely man. I think it was purely accidental because we were shooting in Pennsylvania for Bloody Valentine, and somebody said to Patrick, Tom lives there. You should see if Tom would be in the movie. And both of us were huge fans of Tom's because if you're growing up watching horror movies, how do you not know Tom from Fog and Halloween 3 and on and on. And so we reached out to him and we became friends, like legitimate friends. Like we send each other handwritten letters and emails. Oh,
nice. I can picture Tom writing. I don't think of an email. He's a handwritten letter man. I like that.
I mean, he's one of those old school guys who knows. I mean, he knows everybody. He was in Lethal Weapon. I mean, he knows everybody, and he's been doing it for ages. He was in Rockford Files. I mean, the guy's he's classic Hollywood, and he has all these stories to tell, and he's just so lovely on set. And this movie that we're doing in Ireland, I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, you think of the chances of you doing an Irish accent?" And he just went right into it. And I was like, "All right, you're in." So he's gonna, if we make this happen, he's gonna be one of our leads in this silly little movie.
Oh, sweet! I'm into this. How about this? The rock and roll biopic. Is it about anybody we would know, or is it fictitious?
It is about a band, but I can't really talk about who the band is. But yes, it is. And I had a blast. It was so much fun digging into the research and writing that story. Because normally it's difficult because it's based on truth. So you can't, like with horror, you can, if you hit a wall in the story, you can sort of create your way out of it. You can go wherever. But if you're telling a story that's based on fact, you can't really do that. And so it's more of a challenge, but it's a good fun script. I would love to maybe in November I would be able to talk about it more, because I'm going back to Ireland in November to look at locations and talk to the right people. I reached a point where I don't want to write movies for somebody else anymore. I've done that There's hardly any money in it. I just want to make my own movies now. And so, I mean, I'll still pay the bills with somebody wants to hire me. Sure, I'm going to do it. But it's a little disheartening to pour your heart into something and then you don't own it. You don't own any piece of it. So that's a little tough sometimes.
So since you maybe it's a silly question, I don't know, but said you don't want to direct. When you say you want to write your own stuff, then who would you like to work with as far as directors go?
I mean, I would still work with Patrick, obviously, but I like the idea of working with bringing in new directors, new talent, and giving them a chance. It's something, I mean, and this is horrible to say, but the most successful people I know in Hollywood tend to be dicks. That's because they look out for themselves. They put themselves first in almost every situation. And if you're going to make it in Hollywood, you have to be a dick. I don't want to do that. I have made peace with the idea that I'm never going to be a millionaire. I don't want to be a millionaire. I want to make movies and tell good stories and make people enjoy them, and maybe they won't, but that's fine. That's kind of what I want to do. And so to go off and do this on my own, I don't want to direct because I don't know how to direct, but I can certainly produce and I can give other people opportunities to come in and direct, come in there. Like when we do a casting call, I feel bad. Like I want to give every one of them the job because I know that this is a life alter. Like I've gone in and pitched movies and needed to get the job, desperately needed that job, and then not get the job. And I know that the executive sitting there is going, they don't care. It's not something that they think about. In their mind, it's like, well, he wasn't right for the job. That's not true. I'm right for every job. I'm a very good writer. I always have been. And maybe that's egotistical, but that's the truth. You have to have that ego to do what we do out here. And so I feel horrible every time we do an audition. String of actors don't. Like I saw something the other day where Brie Larson's talking about how she went in an audition for Drive Anger, and she was fantastic. She didn't get the job. And that obviously impacted her career. Maybe it saved her career because nobody saw Drive Angry. But I mean, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's what I want to do. I want to write, and I want to have other people come in and direct. And I also want to bring in other writers and make their movies. So that's what I want to do.
Where do you find directors? Maybe this is just me. I just don't know how this works, but like, so if you have an audition for an actor, they come in and they audition. But if you're going to find a new director, where do you find them?
I mean, I think the best way is directors who go out and do what Spielberg did, who go out and do what the hungry directors do. They make a short, even if it's a short they made on their cell phone. Mm-hmm. You can still pick up a lot from. Like I know a decent director when I see it. I just don't know how to do it. I can recognize that, this person is doing a really good job because they're doing stuff I would have never thought about doing. And so shorts are certainly for me, shorts would be the way to go. And, also people who have directed movies that, directed movies that didn't do, a lot of people didn't see, smaller movies. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You can find good directors.
Sorry about that. I was opening.
I've been sipping my coffee all day.
Yeah, my white peach ginger unsweetened seltzer. That's very good.
Nice.
Yeah, but as far as the shorts, where do you see them? Do you ever do the festivals or anything like that?
No, but I mean, people send me shorts all the time. I'll watch their shorts. You'll see it. If you follow Twitter, certainly. You'll see directors who's like, hey, check out my short. Facebook as well. Yeah. So it's never any shortage of being able to find shorts. And then, for the stuff that we're going to do in Ireland, a lot of it is also like I love the fact that James Gunn has built a career for himself, but at the same time he brought his friends with him. Like you don't see that a lot. Like you go to a James Gunn movie, you're going to see his brother, you're going to see his friends in the movie. Like they all are a part of it. And that's I like that. I like the idea of that. And
you'll even see a Lloyd Kaufman cameo because the guy gave him a start.
Because so it's a payback to that sort of thing. So even though James is now in an A-list world, he's he still gives back. And so I think that's a great thing. And I would like to do the same thing. So.
I think it builds loyalty too, because I know like when they didn't want him to do Guardians of the Galaxy, like Dave Bautista wasn't going to do the third one unless he did it.
Yeah.
Did you have another question, Trista? Sorry.
Oh, I was actually wondering if you're strictly a screenwriter or if you ever write in any other format.
I mean, I've done a number of comic books, which was it's fun. And then one comic book I wrote with F.J. DeSanto, who is he's a guy I've known for ages, and he worked. He was on a couple of the Batman movies. He was on The Spirit. He's been on a bunch of DC stuff, and he and I wrote this together, and then we sold it to Netflix with Michael B. Jordan attached, and Joe Robert Cold writing it. And so these guys are coming from Fruitvale Station and Black Panther, and so they're, so we're in that situation. We're the creators. We're not writing it, but we wrote the comic book that it's based on, and so we are a part of it. And then I took Dean Laurie and I were talking not long ago when all of this started, when everybody goes on lockdown, taking some of the old scripts that we have and turning them into novels. And so I took this old thriller that Dean and I came up with, this thing called Thunder, and just started writing it as a novel. And it's actually been a blast. And so I should finish probably end of the month. And then let's see if we can get it published.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Because
after 20 years of doing this, you end up with tons of unproduced screenplays, which we own. So why not see if we can
something with
Yeah.
It would be weird if you wrote it as a screenplay, it didn't get made. You put it out as a novel, then someone likes the novel and like, hey, this would make a good movie.
that totally would not shock me, because basically that happened with The Messengers. I wrote this story for The Messengers. I went in and met with Revolution Studios, and they said, do this. They wanted to do the Shining on a farm, and so I came up with this whole concept that's not the movie that they made. The movie they made was more of a ghost story, and so they came back years later. This guy J.R. Young was working for Ghost House Pictures, and J.R. read my original draft, which is silly that he would even do that, because they'd already made the movie. And so he read my original draft and reached out to me, and he said, we think we could make a prequel out of this. And I was like, okay. And so it's the exact same script, and I just tweaked it. So then they made a direct-to-DVD prequel out of it. It changed a little bit because Sam Raimi likes killer scarecrows. And so...
who doesn't?
Yeah, so you write one script and you get two movies made out of the one script. So that's rare.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, 2-for-1 deal. Yeah,
not bad.
AJ Zyla here says, thank you for Jason X. Definitely has a lot of meaning to him. He brought up on our Facebook group that it was the last movie he saw with a friend of his who passed away after.
Well, thank you, AJ. Appreciate that.
And Gregory Paul Smith says, My Bloody Valentine 3D is the only time my parents actually had fun and enjoyed the horror movie I dragged them to.
Well, that's the greatest accomplishment yet. Tell your parents, Gregory, that they did good. They've done well raising you.
There's a lot of questions here on the Facebook group. Some of them we already covered, but thanks for sending stuff in. Well, that's interesting. Douglas Epp says, why space? Why not prehistoric time? Feudal Japan? I want to say medieval, Jason. But you kind of said you wanted to do them in the future.
That was Doug? Doug, I can answer that for you. Because we didn't think of it. Prehistoric times, Jason, would be fantastic.
Voorhees Park.
Voorhees getting eaten by a T-Rex and then come out through the belly later. Great.
Yeah. That totally works.
Just a machete. That would be great.
Mike Hochins, what was your first thought when you first saw Uber Jason?
Well, Hochins, my first thought was probably RoboCop. But then again, the guy who designed RoboCop designed Uber Jason, so it was it wasn't much of a stretch. When I wrote it, in my head at least, I had Judge Dredd. There's this character, I think he's called Mean Machine.
Okay.
And he's sort of robotic, and there's flesh, but there's like robotic, and it's a gnarly look, like it looks painful. And so that's what I thought would happen, because this machine's broken and it's putting this guy back together, and it puts him back together poorly. So he's stronger and he's got metallic parts, but that's what was in my head. Plus I'm also thinking Alien, where Alien's very dirty and very dark, and you know, you don't get close looks, but when we got on set, everything was very bright, very colorful, very Star Trek. And then Uber Jason, of course, was RoboCop, which is great. I have no problem with it. It's just, that's not what I was originally thinking. So when I first saw it, I was thinking, oh yeah, that looks like RoboCop. And then someone was like, well, I mean, he designed RoboCop. Like, oh, well, there you go.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That makes
People talk about Uber. I like the opening scene when Jason's chained to the floor. It's almost like old school Frankenstein when he's all chained down. And
I love that too. And that was late. That was late in the game. I don't remember that wasn't in the original script. The original script started in the future. Like there was no Crystal Lake facility or any of that. So that was late in the game. I don't remember how late. It's funny. I've been going through old files and I'm trying to back everything up. So, because everything was just on one computer, and every time I would change computers, I'd move everything to that computer, but I had no backup. So I've slowly been going through and backing everything up, so if anything happens. And I ran across a bunch of old notes from Jim Isaac. And Jim Isaac's been gone for a while. And it was just, I mean, it was like I sat there and just teared up and reading through these things, because you forget the process. You forget how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into anything. Jason X is a silly little movie where we put Jason in space, but Jimmy and I went back and forth constantly. Just every day we were sending stuff back and forth, and he was so passionate about it. And he wanted it to, even though it was this, we never thought of it in the way that, we never thought of Leprechaun in Space. We never thought of any of the franchises that had done that. What we were thinking of was Alien. That's where and Alien to us was a very prestigious film. And so that's what we're shooting for. And so we went back and forth a lot. And it was just I wasn't expecting to see all of this correspondence back and forth in that time. And so it was a weird experience, because I'm so non-emotional. So I say that with sarcasm.
Right. I was hoping so. Seems like a good man. Tyler, he says, this show, Without Your Head and Jason X, are both out of this world. Like that?
Well, this show, yes. Jason X, Tyler's a little nuts on that one.
And he also says Trista needs a Blair Witch stick doll or something in the background. That's what he suggests.
Oh. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Eric Poe, I want to tell him Jason X is my favorite Jason movie, and why couldn't he have written Leprechaun 4 in space? You can just be the space guy, apparently.
Yeah, I would totally do that. I have no problem with that.
AJ, was there a bigger plan for the franchise when he wrote Jason X? The ending seemed to set up at least one sequel.
In the beginning, no. I read an article where Kevin Williamson said that he had planned 3 movies for Screen, which was a blatant lie. He did that because he wanted to get 2 more movies out of it, because he's brilliant. But when I read that, I was like, I think I was in Toronto at the time. Actually, somebody showed it to me. I was doing an interview, maybe a Fango interview, and somebody had showed me this article where he'd said that. And so that's when I started thinking about it. And sure enough, we had 2 more movies that there were 2 places to go. So I never thought the movie would fail. I thought it would do okay, enough to get another sequel out of it. And I expected there would be, several movies taking place in the future like that. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't go that way. Apparently there's a bunch of books, which I've never seen.
Oh, really? I'm not familiar with that, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of novels that sort of took the story on.
Was the face freezing and then crushing scene, was that written? Or was that something that
that was written? It was written, but it was written late in the game as well. A lot of times the kills will come late because they'll, like the screw, the big giant screw that the guy falls on, that came from an artist's conception. Like the artist drew a bunch of these futuristic things and they saw that drawing and they were like, oh yeah, we need that. And I wrote that scene based on this artist's drawing and then them going in and creating it. But yeah, we didn't have the face freeze. That was Noel Cunningham, which was Sean's son. Noel called me up. Can't remember what he pitched. He pitched cryo freezing. It was different than what we have now, but I mean, that's all from him. I didn't think of it. And but it's two-part. Yeah, the idea is great, but the way the effects team pulled that off, I mean, it's shocking how good that is. I mean, we got our own what's that show, the Mythbuster show out of it. I don't know how many other Friday the 13th's got their own Mythbuster. So
that's pretty amazing.
Got that going for us.
Yeah. This is a hell of an idea here. Tyler in the chat room on the YouTube, he says, would you make a film called Maniacs in Space where all the horror icons are cryogenically frozen and then set to a planet to de-thaw and battle each other like gladiators, I guess?
That is fantastic. Years ago, in fact, the first time that I mentioned when I met Tyler Mane for the first time, Patrick and I were working on this thing called Slashers. And it was taking Tyler and Derek and Kane and Tony and all of these guys and putting them, and they're like, I can't remember what it was. They escaped from an insane asylum. And then you take Kurt Russell and Jamie Lee Curtis and you take all the heroes and you put them on the other side.
You need Ash in there.
You know, like Kurt Russell is the mayor and Jamie Lee Curtis is the town sheriff. And, you know, you've got all of these guys in a little town where these guys escape from an insane asylum. And we call it slashers. And so suddenly you've got this town of heroes battling this town of villains. And we could not get anyone interested in it. It was crazy. We pitched it everywhere. But yes, shake them all up and dump them on a planet and let them fight. That's fantastic. That's the Mortal Kombat we all deserve.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And you can, in a way, you could then switch it where people would root for because they don't want to be slaves, these gladiators, and they could rise up and fight the aliens that are enslaving them to battle. And
then you can have, you know, you then get to have Derek or Tyler or Kane or somebody climb up and say, "Are you not entertained?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jeremy in the chat, have you ever considered doing social media writer development seminars?
No, I've never considered that. I have. I was asked to go to Australia and teach a writing seminar, and where they paid to fly me there and paid to put me up. And when they suggested this, I was like, yeah. So I went to Australia and did a writer's seminar, which was fun. I mean, I would, yes, I've never thought of it, but I would certainly do that because I think same thing happened to me. I wrote, and I mentioned this before, I wrote a script which was called Curses, and it was a fantasy script about 3 brothers and 3 sisters, not related, who fall in love. And then a witch curses them so that by day they're the brothers and by night they're the sisters, or vice versa. I can't remember. And it's a goofy little story. And I sent it to, this is the first script I sent to Dean Lorey, and he read it and he called me and he said, I just read 30 pages and I threw it in the trash because you have no idea how to structure a screenplay. He said, you've got some brilliant ideas and I can teach you the structure. And he did. He taught me how to structure a screenplay. And now it's second nature. Like if I read a script and it doesn't do that, and there's no rules when it comes to screenplays, but there are certainly people are trained to see and spot these certain things. And if these elements aren't there, your screenplay is not going to move on. Very rarely do you have a screenplay that breaks structure the way, say, Pulp Fiction breaks the structure, that actually stands out and makes it. And so, yeah, I would love to pass that on, but you know, who has the time when we're all locked down like this?
It's very true. Justin Long Lewis says Slasher sounds amazing. He'd love to see it. Godzuka says you need to include Ash. That's a good one as well.
Well, Ash was doing his own, I think. I think.
Yeah, it's always like a rumor coming up that he would do something like that.
He had come up around the same time. He was wanting to do something similar to that. So and we never reached out to him, and we probably should have just said, well, let's combine our efforts. Maybe we can get the silly thing made. But
yeah, I think it was around the time when people started to put out the thing that Jason was a deadite, because there's some imagery in Jason Goes to Hell from the Evil Dead movies, and then it's like, well, if he is a deadite, then he could battle Ash.
Yeah, that's true.
I would love it.
No, good, Justin.
Yeah, no, I love it too. Justin, Drive Angry 2 is there still a possibility?
I think there is absolutely not a possibility. Unfortunately.
Well, that's a shame. But
look, I say that, I remember going to see Big Trouble in Little China with Carpenter doing a Q&A after, and somebody was like, is there going to be a sequel? And he was like, dude, the movie failed. Nobody's going to make this. And now they're actually making a sequel. So, I guess it's a sequel.
A reboot.
Rock, right?
I don't know.
I don't know if they shot that yet or if they just announced it. But yeah, it's supposed to be with The Rock. And
yeah,
I mean, anything's possible, but it's not a movie. Like, I would love to work with Bill again. Bill was fantastic.
It is weird stuff like that, though, because like I grew up loving Big Trouble in Little China. I have the board game up here, but whoever thought they'd make a board game of it years later, and then now it's like a classic movie. But it was just this weird movie that only weirdos liked when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing it just like you saw Drive Angry. I knew nothing about it. I was on a date with this girl, and we went to the theater, and that was the poster that I'd never even heard of it. Hadn't seen the trailer, didn't know anything. But to see that movie knowing nothing about it, that's just crazy.
Uh-huh.
Like, what is it? And so, is it comedy? Is it horror? Is it fantasy? It's just everything.
That's the thing when people get really fixated on genre. And I think, I don't know why people even worry what genre a movie is. Like, if you like it, you like it. Why does it matter? But something like that, it'd be hard to make today because it doesn't fit into any genre.
No, it doesn't. And look, I think, and I'm almost certain this is a thing. Drive Angry didn't do well because when we tested it, people didn't know what it was. Is it a comedy? Is it a horror? Is it an action movie? Same thing with Princess Bride. Princess Bride is a cult classic, but nobody went to see it. I think anytime a movie crosses this genre, people have trouble wrapping their heads around it. It's a weird thing because my favorite movies tend to break those rules.
Yeah, so, I like that kind of stuff because I think Drive Angry, like, if people would see this movie with a car and Nicolas Cage, you probably would think it's like a straight up action movie. And then I think a lot of people that it would appeal to might not be interested in a movie like that. So it's kind of a weird little thing there.
Yeah, it's a nutty little movie for certain.
Yeah, but I definitely recommend it. Not just you here. I recommended it before. I'm a big fan.
She did.
Let's see here. I assume this is from a movie. Chris says, "Who do you think you are? Who gives you the right?" I assume that's a line from a movie, or he's just being very rude. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have read it. I don't know. Tyler, what are your thoughts? What are your favorite? Go on. Sorry.
Tell him to elaborate. We want more.
Yeah, we need more of what's going on here. Tyler, not Tyler Main, Tyler Stevens. What are your thoughts? What are your favorite Friday the 13th other than Jason X?
It's really hard to have a favorite. Jason Lives tends to leap out to me because that one was, because it was just so unique to me in my head. It introduced a bunch of new ideas. It was unique in the way that it sort of changed Jason, the Jason that we knew, because the previous Jason was not even in the movie. So it was I know it's just, but
that's the first one where I think he's like the undead. I know some people argue he's always like undead, but I think that's the first one where he's like the zombie Jason, and the supernatural one.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that he's certainly a supernatural Jason at that point, which is great. I have no problem with that. Mm-hmm. And that's what allows him. I mean, at least in Jason X, that's what allows him to come back, because anybody else frozen like that wouldn't come back. But it certainly wouldn't come back because two teenagers are bumping uglies. Right. So, but that was all by design anyway, because we didn't have a choice. We knew that DeLuca going in. We knew that DeLuca didn't want to do a Crystal Lake movie, so that's why we were talking about all these other places, and we knew that he didn't like when Jason comes back because of magic or mysticism or lightning. So I was like, all right, well, two kids will be screwing, and that'll bring him back. It works. Right. I hate that.
Shannon, Todd is a great writer, so entertaining. We had a Jason in Space movie coming, and he saved it. Thank you, Todd. Keep him coming.
You are very welcome, Shannon.
Steven, did you ever see the Saturday Night Live skit with David Spade and Victoria Jackson in which Jason attacks him on the space shuttle?
Steven, no. Wait, what is that again? I did not.
Saturday, yeah, Saturday Night Live skit with David Spade and Victoria Jackson.
No, I have not seen that, but I bet you it's on the YouTube. David Spade and Victoria Jackson.
I hear kids talking about this YouTube. I thought maybe it was just a fad, but I think it might take off. I don't know.
And that's SNL?
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah.
I'm going to watch that.
Is there anything specific about the finished movie that you would have changed?
If you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would have said yes. But now I've softened to it. I mean, I like what it is now. I miss the scary version that we talked about making. Mm-hmm. I miss that. But at the same time, we're 10 movies in at that point. I mean, how scary can it be? Jason's already fought a telekinetic, and everything about it had changed. He had an entire movie that took place on a boat that was called Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, come on.
Yes. It's a great poster, though.
It is a fantastic poster.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, which one?
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Jason Takes Manhattan is a fantastic poster. And by the way, I love Jason X as a poster. I just wish Uber Jason was on the poster.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah, I actually tried to find the person who designed the poster for Jason Takes Manhattan. I thought it was like I don't want to say it's the best part of the movie, but it is a good, I like the head punch in the head off. It's pretty good.
The head punch is a great moment, which they probably filmed in Scranton.
Edwin Samuelson, did you contribute to the upcoming Blu-ray set?
Edwin, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I contributed a lot. Peter Brackey, or Brack, I actually don't know how to say his name, Brackey, I think, who came out, he did the Crystal Lake Memoirs, the book. I don't know if you saw the big book. Mm-hmm. Peter came out to the house, and we filmed a whole bunch of new stuff, but this was to be like a year ago. And then right before the release, Peter and I, while I was here in my fancy tool shed, did a commentary together. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. I'm glad that there's seems like commentaries kind of you don't see them too much anymore, and that's always a big selling point for me to buy a Blu-ray. Is commentary tracks.
I don't know if it will make it, but when we got to he had asked me about what I wanted to do in the future films, and so I pitched. I gave him the pitch for the sequel to Jason X during the credits on the Jason X commentary. So I pitched the entire thing. And so if you want to see both movies, then you'd have to pick up the box set. But you know what the good news is? When you do stuff like that, you know what you get? They don't pay you. You get the box set.
Oh, all right.
I mean, that's the greatest thing ever. They are sending me I'm this idiot in a tool shed, and they're sending me the box set. That's awesome.
Pretty envious.
Yes. Sweet. That is great. Very excited about that.
Yeah, I would be too. I'm just going to say I did something on the movie now to get
I think you should. Give it a try. Call them up and say, hey,
It's Crazy Ralph.
I know, it's nuts.
Not quite that old, I guess. But Godzuka wants to know, this isn't really a question for you. He wants to know what everyone else's favorite, or she, I'm not sure, Godzuka, what everyone else's favorite Friday the 13th film is.
That answer is easy. Any of the others.
I personally have always liked part 4.
Part 4. Part 4 is
I also like the look of part 2, even though I know it's basically copied from the town that dreaded sundown. But I do think the hood looks kind of cool.
Part 2 is great.
I like part 2, yeah.
I think as a kid, I watched the original.
The original.
What did you say, Troy? The sound effects?
No, I just like the visual effects in it and stuff. I think are great.
Yeah.
I like it too. I kind of like how they go together, the first 4.
They do. Well, I mean, 4 brings in the element of Corey Feldman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I mean, Corey was he legitimate? He had been a kid actor for a while at that point, right?
Yeah, because he was in Goonies and.
Was he in Goonies before that?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so. And Stand By Me.
Anyway, he brought a different layer to it, and that whole twist with him at the. I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then they get the Hunter, but yeah, Corey Feldman's especially then a really good actor. A lot of these we covered, so I'm not trying to repeat stuff. Tristan Risk, actor, we did cover this though, but there's a lot of people saying this. They want you to see you pen a whole Slashers in Space series.
I mean, I would love it. It would be fun. I mean, you could never have Michael and Jason and Freddy, but you could certainly bring those actors in to play something unique. And I don't know how you would do it, how you would film now. The world has completely changed. The way filming is done now is completely different. And it's, I don't know how you would bring that many people together, but this virus will go away eventually, and not miraculously, but when it does, we will.
I was wrong, by the way. I was corrected. Goonies was after Friday 13th.
It seemed like he's much younger in that, but I wasn't going to say anything.
That's fine. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're the host.
A name only, but yes. And then Stand By Me was in '87.
Stand By Me is a good movie, though.
I love Stand By Me. Yeah, I think that's his best performance, I would say.
I will go on record to say that Goonies is not my favorite movie.
Really?
Stand By Me is an excellent movie.
Yeah, for a long time, I always thought that was actually the best Stephen King movie adaptation. Until there's a lot of modern.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly. It was extremely well made. I like Dead Zone a lot. Like Dead Zone a ton.
I just started listening to the Dead Zone audiobook today.
Really?
Real good.
Yeah, I never read it.
Yeah, Dead Zone's a fantastic book, and I think it's a great movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, Walken's great in that one.
Walken just devours that movie. It is so good.
Yeah, I just finished Cujo today, and then I started the Dead Zone. And Cujo's not an uplifting book for anybody out there who wants to know.
No, it is not. No, you do not walk away from that book going, "Oh, feel good book of the year."
Yes.
No.
This is a true story. Last night I took a midnight walk, and when I was walking home, because I walk every day, and it was right at the point when the dog was when the mom's stuck in the Pinto and she's coming out and the dog's attacking her, and a coyote ran in front of me, and I was like, "Oh, this is very bad timing."
Are you listening on Audible?
Yeah, Audible.
I do the same thing. I'm listening to a David Bowie book, which I'm almost done with. But and then I was thinking I was going to go back and do The Stand, because I
listened to The Stand for the first time because I always wanted to read it, and then it was right when the pandemic started, and it was like, it's like a 48-hour runtime, and I was like, I guess I have the time now.
Perfect, yeah.
But I'd started to listen to it right when the pandemic started, and right away I was like, I don't think this is a good thing to be listening to.
I did the same thing. I'd slowly been using my credits to collect all the King books on Audible, and I'd grabbed it, and I thought, I'm going to listen to that, and then all this happened, and I have to live with this every day. I don't want to listen.
It was later on it gets a little more supernatural and but the beginning's much more real, and it wasn't good time.
I read it early on. It's one of the first books that I read, and I read it before the big version came out. I think now you could probably only get
this one is the extended one, and it even has stuff that was added a lot later, because it was a little weird when I was listening to it, because he starts talking about like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and some stuff I was like, I think didn't he write this in the 70s? And they talk about like Rambo and so they added stuff, I guess, to make it seem like it was actually happening in the time.
It's different. It's a different. I don't remember what parts I think it's different when they go into the. I think he says it was during his Coke years when they're rebuilding, and he just goes nuts into the the minutia of rebuilding.
That's the one thing I don't. There's a like, probably honestly hundreds of pages in the middle that don't necessarily need to be in the book.
Yeah, that's probably why they got cut out to start with.
Yeah, because it's all about like building like running census. I'm sure they'd have to do this, but I don't really care.
You read that and you can literally see between the lines. Oh yeah, he was coked out of his head. I'm not saying anything mean, because he's admitted it. So it's not like.
If you guys get pressed for something, like if you don't have a book coming up and you want to listen to a good one, Joe Hill's The Fireman is real
The Fireman is great. Yeah, I did.
It's got that same kind of vibe as The Stand.
Yeah, he's a good writer as well. I mean,
I like him a lot.
And a lot of his stuff is really good. But what my favorite King book is. Salem's Lot. I think Salem's Lot was the first one I read, and Salem's Lot or Pet Sematary, I can't remember, was the first one I read. Both of those screwed me up though. Pet Sematary, especially.
I love Pet Sematary. I've not read Salem's Lot though, even though I have a lot of Salem's Lot stuff here, but I've never read the book.
Yeah, Salem's
Lot.
Lot.
Like it now.
Patrick and I, over the years of like we had bought the option for a Buick 8.
Nice.
Ages ago, and I think it's being done now. But we wrote the pilot and had the whole, at least the first season all worked out. We had rejoined with DeLuca, and we went around town pitching it. And DeLuca had made up this artwork. I think we were talking about like 3x3 pieces of artwork, and they're stunning. And went around town and pitched it. This was right before the Dome. So King has had this massive resurgence in the last few years, and that was right before it. And we just couldn't get anybody interested. And so then the problem is you get the option for a year, and then when the option lapses, it goes to somebody else. And the great thing is you can option a Stephen King book or short story for $1. And so I mean, you just reach out to his agent, and if
I saw a short film at a festival that did that, they made I forget what the name of it was off a short story he wrote, and they did it through that. They did it where they got it for $1 and were
apparently
really good.
Apparently that dollar never actually changes hands, and so we didn't know that. So Patrick went to the bank and got a crisp $1 bill, and we sent it. And apparently they were so overwhelmed by it, they sent it to King. So in all these years, I think maybe we're the only ones who actually gave the $1.
That's pretty sweet though.
But just, look, if your project gets picked up, Stephen King's going to make his money. That's, so it's not like, but I love the fact that here's this guy who is extremely successful, has millions and millions of books in print. He's not going to, don't shed a salty tear for his financial situation, but yet he doesn't stick it to writers who want to then create. I mean, that's a marvelous thing. It's a lovely thing. He doesn't have to.
He has good politics too.
He absolutely does. He knows what side he should be on.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I think.
I agree, and he's not afraid to talk about it.
No, he's not at all. I think he is all out of concern over what people might think about him.
Yeah. By the way, do you have a favorite King book or movie, Trista?
Oh man. Well, I think the Carrie was very important to me. Yeah. I mean, that Carrie scare at the end really got me as a kid.
They say that's what we might not be here with Todd if it wasn't for Carrie, because they say that's why they added the Jason jumping out of the the water at the end, because they're like, we need a Carrie scream for the end of the movie.
Scream, yeah.
And really, if you think about it, that, is really influential to movies, because after that, like so many films,
it's a weird book though. If you go back and read the book, it's like, because I had read a number of books at that point and went back and read that, and it was like the way it's written, the style that it's written, and for that to be his first book, extremely unique. I don't think he's ever done anything like that since.
Oh, not that I know of.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I read it a lot, like when I was in junior high, but I might listen to it again on Audible.
Yeah,
Audible's not paying us, but I do like Audible.
I do too.
Do you have any of your novels on audiobook?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't written any yet. It's just the one that.
All right. Well, never mind.
Which, but I would like it to be on Audible.
Yeah.
Who's gonna sit down and read these days? Like I can't. I except for if I'm doing research, I can't remember the last time I actually sat down and read a book. Everything's Audible now, at least for me. I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it all depends on who's reading the book. Like,
yeah,
I can listen to certain people read anything, but like I can't stand King himself when he reads his own stuff. It puts me to sleep.
Yeah, I don't like it as much either. Willem Dafoe read the Tommyknockers ages ago. I don't know if that's even something you can get anymore, because I had it on cassettes. So when I would drive to see my girlfriend at the time, it was like a 5-hour drive. I'd pop those cassettes in, and every 30 minutes you got to flip it over and then put it in.
Yeah.
But you have this gigantic set of, because was it Tommyknockers? No, it wasn't Tommyknockers. Langoliers.
Oh, okay.
Willem Dafoe read Langoliers, and I'd never heard anything like it, because here you have this professional actor and he's doing all these different voices, and it was just stunning the way he did it. So when the movie came out later, it was weird for me to watch the movie, because I had this in my brain as to Willem Dafoe. He was all these characters.
Yeah. I know that Max Brooks books, they're done by like a whole cast, World War Z, and then his new one is too, which I haven't read it yet or listened to it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But World War Z, the book is much better than
the best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
AJ wants to know the movie for Blumhouse you mentioned earlier, is it an original or a remake, and are you allowed to say anything about it?
The movie I mentioned to Blumhouse is it is, and I can't get into what it is. It is it's based on a true story though. The first time that do you remember The Sentinel? Came out after Omen, came out after Exorcist.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's about a girl who moves into an apartment that is the gateway to hell. So the first time we were going to work with Blumhouse, it was to remake that, because we had gone in and talked to them, and they were like, what do you want to do? And we said, well, what they did was they gave us the Universal library, and they said, we just cut a deal with Universal. So is there any of this you would want to do? And we chose. I think what we chose. Having a brain fart. What's the John Carpenter movie with Alice Cooper in it?
Something of Darkness, right? Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness, yes. So we chose Prince of Darkness, and we went down that road. And Prince of Darkness, the rights are a mess. They're kind of all over the place. I think even Alice Cooper has a piece of Prince of Darkness.
Wow.
So we just couldn't do that one. So then we chose Sentinel, and we wrote a screenplay, and we never could strike a deal because they were doing different deals back then. But Sentinel would be a great one to see come out one day. It's a weird business where you spend most of your time writing things that will never see the light of day.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you'd have so many things that like you'd start or, have on the shelf and then they just never come through.
Is that something you get used to? I guess you have to at some level or else you go crazy.
Yeah, that would get really frustrating, I would think.
I mean, no, like I have, since I'm sitting here at my computer, I have a list of, because Patrick and I keep everything in a file that we share, and I have a file called Dead, and that is essentially everything that didn't get made. And wait a minute, Dead's in Google Drive, not Dropbox. So anybody trying to hack me will know I'm going into Google Drive now. And then Dead. Oh, here we go, Dead. So there was Funhouse. We pitched Funhouse.
A remake of Funhouse, the original one?
Yeah, we pitched a remake of Funhouse.
I love the original.
I love the three.
Hellraiser, we did a ton of Hellraisers. Parasite, there's slashers that I talked about before. Sentinel that I mentioned, Ghost Rider, 2 different Halloweens, Fright Night, Exorcist, Scanners, Snake, which was a Pliskin remake, Amityville, The Fly, just goes on and on and on. This is not a business you want to join if you like making movies. You need to like not making movies.
Well, Trista and I watched a documentary, The Clapboard Jungle, and I remember Larry Fessenden, and it said that shoemakers make shoes and filmmakers dream of making shoes. And that really stuck with me.
That's probably going to stick with me now.
I like that.
Yeah,
but it's that's just the path we have to take. That's how it's just a part of it, and I'm okay with it.
Where can people follow you if they want to see what you're up to? Not to your shed here, but online.
I mean,
be stalkers.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that. It's Todd_Farmer. I mostly just bitch about Trump, but that I'll stop. Yeah,
I did mention to Trista. I was like, he's on the same side with us as far as politics.
That's no secret.
Uh-huh.
So people are always like, why don't you talk about movies and sex like you used to? Well, that will come back probably in November. It's just going to be movies and sex. Hopefully. But yeah.
That is always weird to me, though, that people think that like someone they like for movies or whatever they do, sports or whatever, that they shouldn't have an opinion on anything else. That never makes. I never quite understand that. Like, they're still a person, they're still a citizen. Why wouldn't you have an opinion on something?
Like the funny thing is, I hear from, like, I post a lot of stuff, and I hear from people, especially on Facebook, because I grew up in a very small town, population, in small town Kentucky, 4,500 people. And I went to a Christian college in Tennessee. So the people that I grew up with and the people that I went to college with tend to be conservatives. And like, I had one guy say to me, within the last year, he was like, being in Hollywood has changed you. And I was like, no, I always thought this way. That's why I'm in Hollywood. Because I was always, Black lives always mattered to me. So that's why I moved to a bigger city. And when you move to a bigger city, you realize we're all predominantly the same. We have the same concerns. We, in the horror genre, you peel our skin off, we all look exactly the same. So anyway, but now I'm in this fancy tool shed.
Your head by your side.
Yeah. Can you see him? No, he's
not too much at the moment, but he's made a few cameos here.
Won't pop in from time to time. I got all my Dungeons and Dragons stuff because
we're good man.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
If you're gonna zoom,
old school.
He's got
that's
old school.
Old school. Yeah, that's the way to go. Yep.
Oh yeah.
The young guide. Yeah.
Not only is it old school, like I drew in it.
Oh wow.
The best ones always have that.
I was probably 12 or 13 when I did this. So yeah, this one's old as crap. And then look at all the others up here too. Feldman.
Player's Handbook.
Yep.
I got all my notes from the last game.
Man, I haven't played D&D in ages.
I know.
But
if we had any calendars left, Neal, we'd have to send them a calendar.
Yeah, we did a calendar last year, and the cover. I think I sent the last one to Tristan. It has Player's Handbook.
I don't know what to do with it. Here it is. I got these. I got these off eBay.
Old modules.
The old character.
Nice.
Character sheets. Yeah.
And I remember they cost a fortune, but I got them for a great deal. So.
Yeah, and then if you didn't have access to like a photocopier, you'd have to erase everything to make the next character. So, because you'd run out of sheets. That's always the way.
I don't have any of the character sheets out here. I think they're all inside. But you draw your own character sheets, your pieces, and they'll look like crap.
It's weird you mentioned that though, Troy, about because now you think like anyone would have a copying machine, or not even a copying machine, but you could print at home. Everyone's got a printer, but I remember it was hard to actually find someone they'd have to work somewhere. Or
they'd have to walk down to like the library or something.
Yeah.
Like this was back in the world where we would leave the house in the morning and we would, be home by 10. And so you wouldn't go home until 10. You'd be on your bike and you would ride everywhere, all over that bike. We'd go and I remember one day we were like 12 or 13 years old and we went to Walmart and we found the red box, which was, I think, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The blue box was the original.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And we bought it. And like this dice, this is the old original dice, but you had to take a crayon and color it.
Yeah, we mentioned that some people, and because the 20-sideds would only have 0 to 1 to 0 twice, and so you'd have to color like one of them a different color, so you knew they were the teens.
Yeah,
and then the 20-sided, you'd roll it so often that eventually it would get round.
Yeah, it would never stop rolling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we used to call those the relics because we would play under the street light and the street, joined our brothers, and the old dice would get really worn out, especially when you're rolling them on the street.
Somebody asked me recently, like, what would you tell somebody who wants to be a screenwriter, who's like a young person? I was like, play D&D because
it definitely builds creativity.
That was definitely a creativity builder, and for me, I tended to be the DM, and if you're imaginative, you're probably going to survive. If you're just like depending on the dice, you're going to die. But I would reward creativity in my players, and so, and I can remember spending I got to a point where I would spend all this time on a campaign, and then we'd start on the campaign, and the characters would take it down a different road, and I have all this material that I'm just not using, so I just stopped preparing. It was just stream of consciousness every time I play. And we ended up with the best games that way.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, Troy was usually a DM when we would play. But yeah, it's the best DMs are, it's storytelling, not just, like you said, just you have to follow this path and just kind of reading what's already been written. And all.
Have you guys played over Zoom yet?
No, actually. I know that's been brought up a few times.
It's actually fun. I've enjoyed it. It's been, it's not as fun as being.
Yeah, still though, that would be pretty similar.
A step up from at least there's interaction.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first. Go ahead.
I was just asked Trista, did you ever play like old school Dungeons and Dragons, like pen and paper?
No, I haven't played. Todd, what were you gonna say?
I'm old. I forgot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say that the first time that I saw D&D, and I don't have the module in front of me, but it was the module cover was pink and it had mushrooms on it. Like
the Shrieker
Keep on the Borderlands? Is that the one? Yep.
That's the one. And
don't ask me why I remember things like that.
But that's the one. And I remember we were on our bikes, middle of the day, and we went to a friend's house, and his older brother was in the backyard at a card table with 3 other guys, and they were playing D&D. And I'd never seen anything like it. I was playing Payday and Monopoly and that stuff, and just this thing was just. And we immediately went and got our lawn mowing money and went and bought the game. But there's no doubt in my mind there's no doubt in my mind that that's a big part of, my honing my creativity. And so I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to be the creative type.
Yeah, I agree. And I know like the video game stuff, that's fun and stuff, but it's nothing, especially, you get a group of people, there's actual interaction. Like you said with Zoom, you can,
them, right?
Yeah, even if you're not together, I could see how it would work with Zoom.
I mean, I loved EverQuest when it first came out. And I was playing it with Dean Lorey, who wrote Jason Goes to Hell, and my wife at the time. We played it all the time. And I can remember being genuinely pissed off that I had to go make Jason X because I wouldn't be able to play EverQuest legitimately. So that's how addictive the games could be back then, because we'd never played anything like it. And and then also, and I've said this before in other interviews and stuff, but from Jason X, Waylander, Sonoran, Professor Lowe, they were all characters from EverQuest. Like, they were all my friends.
Oh, really?
Lowe was mine. And so can't remember who all, but most of them. But so it was, it was a big part of Sonoran, which was one of the ships, was Dean Lorey's character from EverQuest. So I mean,
you mentioned one of the ships is called Tiamat, I think, in Jason X.
Tiamat was from D&D, yeah. So
yeah, the dragon.
So it was
Queen.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Dungeons and Dragons, massive influence on becoming a writer.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I remember years ago, Vin Diesel was on Conan O'Brien, and he mentioned that his character Riddick from the Riddick movies was from it wasn't D&D, but it was a role-playing game that he played like as a teenager. And ever since then, I was like, oh, I gotta like the guy.
Got a soft spot for him now,
old role-playing game.
No, it was, and and the funny thing was, none of these guys that I hung out with on the game knew that I or Dean were making movies until much later. And then the movie comes out and it's got all their character names in it.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I love it.
And then we all moved to Warcraft.
Oh yeah, Warcraft was huge.
And we stayed on Warcraft for years. And I love the Warcraft movie because I loved the game, but I wanted the movie to be so much better.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I love Moon. Duncan Jones' early stuff was fantastic. So
I never watched the movie.
It's not as good as we wanted it to be.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch it. But I never played a lot of the later Warcrafts, but I played the original one when it was just the.
You played the online though, right?
No, I played the old.
You played but those are fun too, though.
Yeah.
You played
Zorg.
Yeah.
It was just the orcs and humans
down
and
stuff,
yeah.
No, I loved those as well. And I wonder if you can still play them. I don't know that you can. Maybe you can.
I don't know.
I don't know what.
I don't have time.
You play some of the older games on Xbox. I don't know if. Have to look into that. Yeah. Be nice and nostalgic to back up to that.
Oh yeah.
Did they ever make a Jason role-playing game of any kind? Well, they did have the online one that was really popular until all the rights came up about the.
Derek and I did a stream one night where we went in and played with a bunch of people, and
nice.
It was just a massive disaster because Derek and I had no idea what we were doing, and so it was just people killing us all night.
Yeah, I remember
you got to see things from the other side on that one. Time.
I tried to get into it, but I hadn't played video games since like Nintendo 64, and I didn't know what I was doing. I kept getting killed and got frustrated. So.
Yeah, and then I spent tons of time at Tyler's house. He was always playing Call of Duty. He just lived for it.
That was his game.
And he was good at it too. You can get pissed off. He played it all the time. So.
Where did you meet Derek Mears? Like on a movie or a convention? Or?
First time I met him was at there was a big Dark Delicacies had this big 30-year signing, maybe 30 years, but Bloody Valentine had just come out, and Freddy versus Jason was about to come out. So that's when I first met Swift and Shannon, and that's when I met Derek. I think that's the first time I met Derek, not including later years when Tyler and I went and toilet papered his house. But those were I think that was the first time I met him. And Derek is a great, he's legitimately a great, sweet human being. Like, there are a few people quite like him. He's a lovely fellow. And I mean, Tyler is too. Tyler and I are, we're the guys that got into bar fights. Derek is the one who's trained but has not been in a fight. So that dynamic was always interesting to me, because Tyler and I are just blunt instruments, and Derek is a scalpel. And but we all sort of complement one another.
Yeah.
Like, there would be a lot of times, like, we'd take pictures together, and Tyler and I, we were the ones flipping the bird, and Derek's just being the calm one. Or Tyler and I'd have our hands in our pants, and Derek's just there. It's good dynamic.
The first ever panel I hosted at a convention, it was Derek Mears, Brian Steele, and who was the guy Troy played? He played Leatherface in the remake. Andrew Bernarski.
Yeah,
who was
an interesting guy.
Yeah, much different than the other two.
Yeah, the other guys were really mellow. He wasn't.
No, it was only about 5 or 10 minutes in, and he's like, "How long is this panel?" And I was like, "They told me like a half hour," and he goes, "Nope," and he got up and walked out. I
don't know if I ever met him, but I heard he was a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever met him, though.
I was trying to be nice about it, but yeah.
Have you met Brian Steele, though? He's a really sweet guy.
Brian Steele is a sweet guy, and I do believe that I have met him.
Looks kind of like Derek. They could be twins.
Brian was Bigfoot in something, is that right?
Yeah. I think he's Bigfoot in the Jack Link's commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I have met.
And he's in the new.
Brian. We're not close.
He's the robot on what's the Lost in Space? The new
Lost
show.
in Space on Netflix.
Yeah, and he's a predator. I think they're both predators and predators. Derek and Brian.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Derek, right?
I'm pretty sure I've met him. I don't know where I've met him. Maybe at a convention or something, but I'm pretty sure I've met him. Because I've done a couple of conventions with Derek and Tyler, and it's always a disaster because nobody wants the writer to sign anything. Like, I had this one guy come up to me with his map, and it was just like he was all nervous, and he hands me the mask, and I'm looking at it, and I see Kane's name, and I see Derek's name, and I'm like, because I've got Jason X shit up behind me, and he's looking at it, and I'm like, I'm not a Jason. And he was like, and he grabbed the mask and pulled it back. And I go, I wrote Jason X, and he was like, and he moved away. Okay. And so meanwhile, they have lines around the corner and out to the other end of the football field, and I'm just sitting there alone. So I don't do a lot of conventions because nobody cares.
I hate to say I can relate, but I mean, I'm way further down. and they would be nice. They'd be like, "Oh, we put you in this great spot. You're between the cast of Fright Night and the cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show," and I'm like, "Great." So you sit there and no one goes to or they stand at your table and either try to be nice and make small talk or don't pay.
Could you hold this while I have something signed by one of these people on either side? It's like, okay.
Like, I've been to a convention when everybody from Fright Night was there, and I just remember because at a certain point after the doors open, everybody comes in, and just like there's lines and lines and lines. But then almost always there will be a lull, and so I'm just sitting there because I loved Fright Night, and we've pitched Fright Night. We almost got the Fright Night job, which I'll come back to because that's not a bad story. And but I remember watching all of those guys that it was just so fun to see them just hanging there, just chilling and talking. And
yeah, they were really, really cool people.
Honestly. And it was
the whole cast.
That was the same. Tom Atkins was at that one. So it was Derek, Scout was there, Tom was there, Tyler was there, and people kept buying us drinks. and we, so anyway, it was to a point, the next day I saw Tom Atkins and he was like, I hate you two, because we got him so drunk. Oh my goodness, so drunk. I'm so happy he survived it, because there was a lot. That's the thing about the conventions, is they just won't stop buying you drinks. And that part's okay. But yeah. So I was going to tell you about Fright Night.
Yeah, Fright Night.
After, I may have the dates all wrong, because Lucier doesn't drink and has never drank. So he has all his brain cells. I, on the other hand, to compensate, do not have all mine. So memory does not work as well for me. But we had, DeLuca had reached out to us and said, Clint Culpepper, who I think ran Screen Gems at the time, he was the head of Screen Gems, has the rights to Fright Night. And why don't we get together and go pitch it? And Roy Lee was there. I don't know if you know Roy Lee. Roy Lee has produced a ton of Asian horror films.
Okay.
And so I think maybe The Ring, I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember. But anyway, Roy Lee was there. So we go in and we're pitching, and Patrick and I think we even put it online at some point, our pitch, but we pitched the concept that Peter Vincent was a real actor. And in the world that we created, Tom Atkins playing himself and Jamie Lee Curtis playing herself have remade all of Peter Vincent's old movies. So they're in the remake business. That's what they do. And they've become very successful. Peter Vincent has since passed away, but they're doing the convention circuits and they're doing remakes. And so that's the whole thing. There's a vampire thing, and the kid comes to them because they've been in all these remakes of Peter Vincent movies. And so they would obviously know how to kill a vampire. And so that was our pitch. And so we go in to pitch Clint Culpepper this idea, and we're maybe 2 minutes in. And there's a whole bunch of people. DeLuca is there, Roy Lee is there, all of these assistants, and everybody else is around this giant table and conference table. And see, that's the brain cell thing. It takes a while for the word to show up. And so 2 minutes in, Clint goes, hey, guys, let me stop you for a second. I can tell everyone around the table loves this. You all get it. I can see that you get it. I don't get it. So there's no reason for us to continue with this. And I remember looking over at Patrick going, okay. And DeLuca's the same way. DeLuca was like, all right. And so meanwhile, there are others in the room who are arguing with him. And so we're like, well, okay, let's go. But by the way, I loved that. He didn't get it. We weren't going to move forward. There's no reason for us to perform, which is what we would do.
Right, if it's not going to happen anyway, right? Waste more time and yeah.
Absolutely. So we left. And then I don't remember how long, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. DeLuca calls back and he says, Clint forgot to renew the rights, and I bought. So I've got a deal at DreamWorks. Let's go pitch it again. And so we went back to DreamWorks and we pitched it this time fully, and they loved it. They did not eventually go with us. They ended up going with Marty, and she went and wrote a fantastic screenplay, and you should go see it if you haven't. So, but that's the breaks.
That's unfortunate, though.
It is, but we got to pitch it twice, so that was cool.
Yeah. When the remakes come up, like, how does that come up? Is it something someone else like, hey, we're going to remake this movie, go write a script, or do you like, hey, I would like to remake this, I'm going to write a script for it?
It's normally they come to us, or you hear that they're looking for somebody to remake something. Like I can remember going to pitch, I think it was The Fly, a remake of The Fly. And I can't remember what I couldn't even begin to tell you what the pitch was, but we went and we pitched it to, I think it was Fox. Can't remember who owns The Fly. I think it's Fox. And in the meeting, after we pitched it, you can sometimes you can tell when you go into a pitch meeting, you can tell when they're really into it. And then sometimes they're like yawning and they're just like, one of the worst pitches that we ever did was to Wes Craven. And Wes Craven loves us, but he was making Cursed at the time and he was tired and he kept dozing off during the pitch. But this was one of those pitches at Fox where we're pitching The Fly and they are totally into it. I mean, they absolutely love it. And at the end of the pitch, amongst themselves, they start talking about, okay, this is our franchise, The Fly, this is our thing, this is our Scream, this is our big franchise. So can we get, and then they start talking about all of these other writers and directors, can we get them to come in and make this movie? Not talking about our movie, they want to bring somebody. So we're just standing there, and they've absolutely moved on to somebody else while we're in the room. I've never had that happen before. So that was fun.
That's just going to be like, I don't know, very awkward. And
a little awkward.
Yeah.
It was like, we're still here.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's good to find. It's good when you leave the meeting to know you don't have to wait around for the phone to ring. But at the same time,
at least pretend, or be the other guy. Just say we're not interested. And
yeah, it was weird.
Justin wants to know: is there a remake that you would just not do? Is there like a movie that you think like that should not be remade? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with remakes. I mean, the original's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
if it wasn't for remakes, we wouldn't have the Thing. And,
I know. I was saying the Thing and the Fly are two of my favorite remakes, and they're substantially different from the originals, but the originals still exist. I mean, the Fly is a very good movie, the original Fly, and a lot of those concepts are still there. So to update that, I mean, I always liked the idea that you take a movie that didn't have the money or the technology that you can put into a movie today. And so that's, so by that, I think remakes are a brilliant idea. But I mean, there was something I just heard, maybe it's Escape from New York. Somebody was talking about a remake and they were like, no, you can't do that. Yes, actually you can. You can remake any movie. It's just more. I never understood and people would get mad at us. You see online people say, oh, I'm so tired of remakes. I'm so tired of sequels. Well, you know what? The remake that Patrick and I did is the biggest movie we've ever had. So people complain about it, but you went to see that one. Nobody saw Drive Angry, and Drive Angry is completely original. And nobody went. So maybe that's not the best argument, but it feels like it is.
No, I mean, there are people who don't support something original, or they download it or something. So if you do want new original things, you should support the movie. I mean, that's kind of a different argument, is about piracy, because I don't know, it's bringing up something on the show, but like online, I mean, a lot of people don't seem to think there's anything wrong with it, which is very strange to me.
With the piracy?
With piracy, like fans will get mad, like if you say like you shouldn't download this movie or something.
I mean, it certainly was part of what killed Jason X, because piracy was brand new back then, and I think it was Pirate Bay. Jason X was filmed. We shot it on film, but it was transferred to digital fully, and it was the first movie that had ever been done that way. And I can remember Jimmy and David Hammond, who was the editor, on the phone with LucasArts, because they were going to do something similar with the prequels. And so they were talking about, they were calling us up this goofy little horror movie that had just transferred everything digital. And that's why parts of Jason X look really clean. And if you go back and look at movies from that same time period, you can see there's a much cleaner look to it. Now, for people who love film, obviously that's not there. But as a result, because we were digital, it was very easy for us to upload, and somebody did. And so it was everywhere. It was like Pirate Bay. It was their #1 download for a while. And I, so it hurt, certainly, because now some people will argue, well, people who downloaded it weren't going to go see it anyway. And maybe that's the case, but
I'm sure not like every single one, but there's still, like I don't know how you'd even prove that one way or the other, but still there'd have to be a percentage of those people that would have went to see it.
I mean, I have two friends, former screenwriters, and they would download movies all the time. And I was just like, dudes, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Look, I was I was a huge Napster user. I still have songs that I never found anywhere else. I found them on Napster, and I didn't understand at the time. I didn't think what that meant. Mm-hmm. Now we know what that means. Now I don't use Napster. Now I pay for everything. I understand, the difference. And by the way, Napster and digital has, to some degree, killed portions of the business. And that's, that's just part of it. But yeah, downloading movies is, like it or not, it's bad. So.
Oh no, I just think it's strange that there's a lot of people who don't, kind of like you're saying, they just see it as I think they see it as a cheaper way to watch a movie and don't see why anyone would think there's something wrong with it.
I mean, there's a level of entitlement, certainly, that's, I deserve to watch this. And
I remember in a group I was kicked out. I was banned from it because it was a group like supporting independent. It was, I forget the name of it. It was something about supporting movies, and they were sharing all the torrents, and I was like, this isn't a way to share a movie. And they got or not a good way to support a movie, and they all got mad at me. Were saying like that I was being cruel to tell people, that they should buy the movie. It was really strange, and then no one was agreeing with me, and they banned me.
But how is that any different than walking into a Best Buy and just walking out with a TV? I don't understand. Or walking out with a DVD. What is the difference? It's still stealing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I hate that it's hurting people's fifis, but that's what it is.
No, I agree 100%. It was weird. It was even the Rob Zombie 3 from Hell group, which is a group for a specific movie, and they were sharing the link to download the movie.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, you were wise to leave that group.
Yeah, well, they banned me,
of your own free will.
There, we'll put it out that way. A lot of people are still saying they love Jason X here in the chat room, so you guys know. I was just reading the chat room. Sorry about that.
Oh, do that.
Yeah, I believe Troy had to go. He's sorry, but he has to go to work. He works nights here.
No worries.
Yeah, and we're late night here because we're at the East Coast.
Please.
Yeah. So you've done some more acting? Is that something you'd like to do more of? I know you pop up in things.
No.
All right.
I mean, I did Cheap Thrills as a favor to a buddy. I've been in a couple of Mike Mendez.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. Don't Kill It. Yeah.
Don't Kill It. I was in, but that was also because I can't remember how that came about. My daughter and ex-wife are in Tennessee, and so I was in Tennessee visiting my daughter, and Mike was making his movie in Alabama. So it wasn't that far a drive. And I remember him saying, can you bring fireworks? Because they didn't sell fireworks in Alabama. So I bought a trunkload of fireworks and put it out there. And they were all drunk and blowing things up. It was nuts. But it was fun. But no, I would do it. I'd do it for friends, but it's not something I would want to do. It's a hard life.
Angela Baker says, I saw Drive Angry opening weekend and loved it.
Well, thank you, Angela. It was a tremendous amount of fun.
I highly recommend it. So anyway, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed. I'm sure everyone's here enjoyed talking with you.
Well, it has been my pleasure. I don't let just anyone into the tool shed.
Well, I think we feel special here. In the tool shed, we get to see the severed head, saw the wig. It's been a good time, I think.
When I grab the severed head, because normally the stuff's in my office.
Maybe it's a scalp. That sounds cooler, I think. Scalp.
Yeah, scalp is good. Yeah. When I grabbed the head, I had this wig and I didn't have anywhere to put it, so I just keep it on the severed head. And when I grabbed it, the wig fell down. I was like, well, I'll just put that on because it's stupid.
I love it. Yeah.
I know when I popped on, you were like, "What is up with his hair?"
Well, I've seen pictures, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this isn't. Do I say it looks good? Maybe it really is. Maybe it's his new thing. I don't know.
I know you said like, yeah, your hair is nice. And I was like, thanks. I just had it done.
I thought that was so nice of him.
Yeah, she was like, he's normally not that nice. I don't know why. He normally doesn't compliment people. I don't know.
It certainly cracked me up. But
well, thank you again. This has been a real treat, and you've been so generous to answer so many questions and give us so much of your time. And I felt like you were very honest in your answers. And,
no, most of those were lies.
Well, you should pursue acting then. You're a very good actor.
I should look into that.
Yeah. If Mike Mendez is onto something, put you in these movies.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Mike Mendez.
He is one of the when we started the show. He's one of the first guests we had on the show in 2006.
Have you seen his
off MySpace?
Have you seen his COVID videos? We'll go back.
Yeah, they're amazing. He does all these little shorts and he puts them on Instagram and
and they're great.
And he gets like Dolph Lundgren to do voices, and it's like these are pretty wild.
I know, it's absolutely wild. And by the way, if you go to his place, it's nuts. Like we all have, you know, like you have your Frankenstein stuff and Mummy and Wolfman in the background, but he has thousands of them, and they're everywhere. So all of those toys that you see in those videos, I mean, his walls are covered. Like the bathroom is covered, the bedrooms are covered, the ceiling is covered, the kitchen is covered. They're everywhere. It is. I don't know how you dust a place like that. It is just nuts.
Yeah, I like him even more now. Sounds very cool.
Oh, it's crap. But I mean, he has everything. He's got this from The Simpsons to horror to you name it. He has got. If there's a figure out there, he's probably got it, and several versions of it. It's crazy.
Awesome. And we'd love to do this again sometime when you have something cool coming out, or just want to come and talk about something.
All right. Are we on Twitter together?
Yeah, just today I think we followed each other.
Because I posted something today. I did follow you back, right?
Yeah, I think I followed you back.
Oh, look at you!
Just to throw it out there. I mean, but I think I might have followed a different Todd Farmer, the wrong person.
He's a good guy, though.
Yeah.
I get his emails.
I get the wrong guy on the show, man.
Like every now and then, I'll get a tweet going, "I think you're looking for this guy."
I'm sure he gets it a lot. But.
He does. He's the. I like to refer to him as the. He's a .com guy. I like to refer to him as the better-looking, much more successful version of Todd Farmer. So, but guys, it has been an absolute pleasure.
He doesn't have a cool. He wouldn't let us in his shed.
No, he definitely wouldn't, because he doesn't have a shed like this.
Exactly. Screw that guy.
With a nice little curtain.
Yeah.
It's a good shed.
Kane was like on the beach when we had him on. I don't know what was going on there.
No one knows what's going on with Kane.
Very true.
That's just a part of it.
Yeah. All right. Very good. We will talk to you soon. This has been awesome. Right. Thank you, guys.
You guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I know it's cool.
Goodbye, everyone on the internet.
And welcome back, Trista. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be back. Bye.
Bye, everyone.